So there you have a very, very comprehensive, strongly worded press conference by United States of America's President Donald Trump, stating and confirming in many words that Islamic State chief al-Baghdadi is dead after raids. Special forces conducted these raids in Idlib region of northern Syria, and Trump, as he just mentioned a while back, watched this entire operation from White House Situation Room. And we're going to talk about the larger picture, the diplomatic and the international ramifications and optics of it, and much more when Trump says Baghdadi whimpered and died like a dog's death. RSN Singh, author in strategic affairs, joining us live from Delhi on this broadcast. We're also joined by Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, Republic TV contributor and international affairs expert, joining us live from Delhi again, and also extremely glad to have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow Observer Research Foundation, live on this broadcast. I want to get a quick word from Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, Republic TV contributor. Baghdadi, in fact, has been highest-ranking terrorist after Osama bin Laden. Well, that happened during Obama's administration. This is Trump administration. When Trump says that our reach is very long, you know, Sreeram, when we look at the big picture, the global messaging that the Trump has been wanting to send through this, because we have seen since 2014, rather, there were a lot of speculations, unconfirmed reports that Baghdadi is dead. Russia also, in fact, in 2017, if I remember correctly, wanted to take credit, but then there were no confirmations that Baghdadi is dead. And now today, Donald Trump making that huge announcement. How unprecedented do you see this as?
Well, Sakal, it's true that Baghdadi has had many so-called deaths and has survived. But I think this time the DNA tests, they seem to have nailed him, because there's no way that the ISIS channels, if you hear the chatter on the jihadist internet, they would have by this time tried to rebuke or make fun of this or to deny it. The fact that they haven't means that it is true. And I think the fact that the region collectively came together and all the major players supported the US operation, that I think is the big takeaway for me, because they were all divided, and ISIS always thrived on divisions, Sunni versus Shia, that was the #1 thing for them. Then Muslims versus non-Muslims, that was the second biggest basis on which they polarized the society. And then they benefited from some countries like Turkey in the past, who then turned against them. They were totally opposed to Iran. But when Trump is saying, we got the Turks, the Syrian government, the Kurds, the Iranians, everybody supported, Russians supported us. Well, at least for this moment, the world came together. And that just shows how diabolical and how dangerous these global jihadist groups are, that even countries that don't get along normally and have geopolitical tensions among themselves are now grouped together against them. And I hope that Trump lives up to this promise that, we're going to go after jihadists wherever they are, because, there are so many of them in our own neighborhood, and the Americans have never directly attacked inside Pakistan or taken any big scalp there. So I think we should be, of course, happy that one depraved monster, or a savage monster, as Trump called it, is gone. But the challenge is long one. People said that 50 to 20,000 ISIS fighters remain in Syria and Turkey alone. Then they've got branches in Libya, in Egypt, in Somalia, and in our own so-called the Khorasan region, which includes South Asia.
It was very interesting to see how Trump actually, in detail, explained the entire nighttime raids. Zero damage to forces. There were no collateral damages, and just, in fact, Sreeram, I'm going to come to you, and we also have with us RSN Singh and Sushant Sareen, and my colleague Anilesh continues to read. But Sreeram, in fact, you were making that very, very important point. The global message that Trump wants to send across through this massive success to US forces, though he has more than once actually acknowledged the role of Syria, Russia, in fact, Iraq also, when it comes to the intel inputs, etc., has also, in fact, talked about the vital information that they retrieved at the end of the raid and all of that. Sreeram.
Yeah, Sakal, I think to counter global terrorism, we need cooperation. That's the big message, I think. And we need, unanimity and some kind of consensus. And unless that happens, you cannot have such a big success like scalping Baghdadi, the way the US Special Forces could do. Trump mentioned how they flew over at very low altitude across a lot of territory where the US aircraft could have been shot down. and it could have been a disaster. But the fact that they coordinated, they did what they call deconfliction with many other parties in a very, very complex battleground in northern Syria. I think we have to say hats off to this, because the way they coordinated it. So of course Trump will try to take some credit for it, and recently he announced a pullout of US forces from another part of Syria. So he's been facing a lot of flack, and this might help him politically at home also.
That might explain some of the timing of this raid. Credit. I mean, is that an understatement, Sushant?